In the UK, over 64% of people say they want to start their own business, but most never do. And it's not because they lack the ideas, it's because they're worried. Worried they don't have the money, worried they don't have the time. They're worried what people will think if they fail. But here's the truth. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs I've interviewed didn't start with the money, the time, or the confidence. They started with nothing but an idea and an internet connection. Over series 1 of Wake Up, I spoke to self-made founders who built real businesses from scratch, often while working full-time jobs, living at home, or drowning in student debt. And what I found is this. They didn't start with capital, they started with resourcefulness. So in this video, I've pulled together some of the most actionable, replayed, and underlined lessons from those conversations. A step-by-step playbook for how to start a business, even if you don't have the money. So let's get into it. How does someone practically start a business with no money?
Well, I think it depends on the business. But I mean, generally, if you understand, for example, cash flow, most businesses can start quite quickly. So for example, I built a massive, very profitable business called Coaster Ads. And the simple idea was, you got Heineken and Carlsberg coasters in bars and restaurants. I stripped them all out of the bars and restaurants and I put advertising coasters in there instead. And how I launched that business, I in the end, I think we printed 35 million coasters. Wow. So, a lot of money went into the business. I think in the first year, I made £2 million profit from this business.
Wow.
And I started it with no money. So how did I do it? I was 24 years old. And I met a very talented graphic designer and we were brainstorming ideas. And while we were brainstorming what we could do, we were both putting our drinks down on these coasters. And we said, that's a waste of advertising. I've been putting this drink down on this coaster for the last 40 minutes, looking at that Carlsberg ad.
Yeah.
I don't drink alcohol. It's making me want a Carlsberg.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we said, okay, well, we could do something. We could put ads on there. And Helen went, sure. And then we teamed up together. Helen designed a little deck. So she put her time in. And then I started researching who might advertise on them. And I went to 20 brands and I pitched, we're going to take over all the bars and restaurants and we can put your brand in these bars and restaurants. Would you like to do it? And they said, sure. One big company called United Airlines said yes. And I gave them a 6-month exclusive contract to do it, but they had to pay me 50% in advance. And with that 50% in advance payment, that was all my costs. I priced it so the 50% was all my cost to make the coasters, distribute the cost, pay the restaurants and bars, pay staff to distribute everything. They paid me the deposit for the idea, and then I delivered on it, and then they paid me the other 50% a month later once I'd done everything. That was my pure profit. So I think once people understand like cash flow, again, when I launched Fluid, I won a client, they paid a 50% deposit, and I used that 50% deposit to pay everyone to do the work. So again, I started with no money. That simple, again, I talk about a lot of these principles in the book, but like that simple principle of understanding how you can manage cash flow will probably get 92% of businesses off the ground.
Takes the fear and the unknown out. If you can win a client that will pay 50% up front, you're off. Exactly. That's exactly how I started my first business.
That's what I mean. But this isn't taught in school. And this is a combination of financial literacy and business basic 101. Again, why I've written this book is to try and highlight that these things, once they're taught to you, anything is possible. Now, of course, I've launched a digital platform, right? HelpBank is a competitor to LinkedIn long term. That's my ambition for it. That has meant large chunks of money going in at the beginning, right? But that isn't where I started. I started as a gardener. So, yes, some would argue it's taken me rather a long time to save up the money to start a digital platform.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do it today that don't require you to work for 30 years.
Of course.
You can go get an investor.
Also, you could set up that business with third-party tech
totally
for low cost.
By the way, I did.
Yeah.
So before I built the tech, I started a Discord channel.
Yeah, there you go.
And so it was all free, pretty much. So, I actually paid a moderator to help me set it up at like 100 quid. But like the original HelpBank was a Discord channel.
Yeah.
And so that cost me nothing to determine whether or not people would help each other for free, as they do now on HelpBank. Right? So I didn't throw £1 million at it at the beginning. I did an MVP, which happened to be someone else's technology.
And what is an MVP?
Minimum viable product. So a basic proof of concept, as cheap as you can do it. And every successful business has done this, by the way. Airbnb, literally, they rang up someone who was advertising a room for rent on one platform, and then they saw someone was looking for a room on another platform, and they rang the two up and said, I put you together, I just want 20 quid if I do.
Yeah.
It was done manually.
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, I think nowadays, and I don't know if it's like the glorification of Silicon Valley businesses, but You can build a business with very little money.
Yeah, I would say you should. Don't
by
raise
just getting
money.
a couple customers going.
Totally.
What do you think about the evolution now of side hustles? Like, is it going to change the fabric of work?
I'm going to make a prediction. Over the next 10 years, I suspect we're going to see more of a norm of people having 2 to 3 jobs rather than one job.
Yeah.
I think we're more likely to see people say, right, I'll work for you for 2 days and I'll work for this person for 2 days and then I'll do 1 day on my own thing or something like that. I really do think that's where working life's going to go. I think they'll be much more nomadic in the way they kind of approach work. I think they'll be much more like hired for doing a specific thing rather than like a sort of job, if that makes sense. And I really do think that's where we're going to end up. What that means, I don't know, but that's kind of where I think it's going to go, because I just think it's much easier to start.
Yeah.
Like the internet and social, like it absolutely allows you to monetize things easier. And best of all, it allows people to monetize hobbies, which I really like. When I sort of say to people, oh, you should start something on the side, there's 2 things. I can't afford it and I don't have the time. And like the time thing's easily solved by monetizing something you enjoy doing anyway, right? Because you would do it anyway, so you might as well try and make a bit of money out of it. And because social and the internet is so readily available, it's really easy to do that. Like there's one guy I follow, all he does is build Lego. He creates like these unbelievable creations. And like
is he well followed?
He's incredibly well followed.
Yeah.
And obviously he's got like sick brand partnerships and he makes loads of money and he's now sort of doing it full time. But like he would have done that anyway. He just loved building Lego and that was his thing as a childhood. He loved it. And then he just started filming himself doing it and voila, you've got a business. So I love that. I've so many issues with social, but this is one of the pros. It's like people getting to share their expertise, their knowledge and their joy and love of the world with everyone. Like that has to be a good thing.
I was talking to someone the other day who had a really great job. She's a product manager at a big company. I think actually she's a product manager maybe at Greg's. And she reached out to me and she was making money online from teaching people about how to manage their finances. And she was working at Greg's. And she got to a point where after a year of making content about how to like save money, how to like buy things responsibly, she was making her product manager salary from her content. And then she left her full-time job and she suddenly was like, I'm working 2 days a week for the salary I used to get. I don't have to travel anywhere. I'm doing the thing that I really am quite passionate about. And so I suppose the advice for people is, I don't think it's like one or the other.
No.
Like you don't need to like handbrake your career and do the side hustle. You can ease into these things.
For sure. And that's the best way. And that goes back to what is quiet quitting and like, what about working 60 hours? You go, people just don't want, like people are doing other things now in their lives. And so, yeah, totally agree.
I think for most people, that fear of what people will think about you for diverging from the normal path, it holds people back so much. And I find it quite like a sad thing. And so it's quite motivating to me to be like, I'm going to try and unlock more people to say that it is going to be a bit embarrassing when you start your first business or venture, and it's probably going to fail.
Yeah.
And so in some ways, I would set the expectation that you're not going to be an out of the gate overnight success, because it will just help you in the long term.
There are 2 big mistakes in life: worrying about what other people think about you and believing that other people think about you in the first place. The spotlight effect is this cognitive bias that says that we overestimate the degree to which other people are noticing or thinking about our actions or behaviors. We think everybody is staring at us and judging us, when in reality, they're not. They're just worried about themselves. And that should be liberating. That should be a reminder to you on a daily basis that no one really cares about what you're doing. Even if they notice it, they've immediately moved on to the next thing. So all of your failures or your fear of failures that you build up in your mind that hold you back from going and doing the thing are completely contrived. They're made up in your head. You just need to go out and do it. It's the so what thing of like, if I fail, so what? I'll go back. I'll be fine. I'll go and do the next thing again. And so just reminding yourself of that, no one cares. No one is really thinking about you. And stop taking yourself so seriously, because none of us are making it out of this alive.
And we spoke earlier about the 4 types of luck, which is a fascinating concept. With that in mind, how can someone put themselves into more situations that are going to result in better outcomes for themselves? What are the actions that they can take from tomorrow after listening to you? What can they do?
I think you have to get off the couch, is the harsh way of saying it. You cannot get lucky sitting at your house watching Netflix on the couch. It's impossible. You cannot do that. You can really get lucky by going out, by meeting people, by interacting, going and spending time in value-aligned rooms, meaning places where other people that are interested in similar things to you are spending time. If you're really into your physical health, spend more time in farmers markets and gyms and cold plunge sauna places. You're going to meet people that are working on similar things, that are interested in similar things. If you're really into art and music, go to gallery openings, go to these events. If you live in a city, those things are happening every single night, but you have to open yourself up to the world in order to expand that luck surface area and invite those things into your life.
One of the interesting things I think at the moment is like you can pick almost any business and think about it in the context of AI, and there's probably a use case for it. And you don't have to build a massive business. You could build a small
AI businesses are easy to build.
Yeah, small.
People have no
business.
idea how easy.
Yeah.
AI is a little bit like electricity. So there was a period of time where electricity came out, and they said, "What's electricity for?" And everything.
Yeah.
Well, it's going to replace the way that we light the house. It's going to replace the way we do the dishes. It's going to replace the way that we clean clothes. It's going to replace the way we clean, suck dirt out of the thing. It's going to replace all sorts of things. And we're going to invent stuff that we didn't even know was possible, like computers and phones and all that. So electricity had that same impact. AI, it's like, well, what's it for? Well, it's for everything, actually.
Yeah.
So I have this mental model as to how to create an AI business, which is you need to be able to capture customer insights. You need to capture something from a user. You need to then mix that with your unique intellectual property that forms a prompt. So their data plus your intellectual property goes over to OpenAI as an API call, and then it spits out something that's worth more than the sum of the parts. And you end up putting that into just a portal. So you build it into a portal. So we've just explored several ways to do this. I've just been exploring an AI tool for writing a great pitch. And, you share your idea, and then it mixes with our IP, and then it goes away, and then it writes the pitch for you, and then it comes back with a better pitch.
Wow.
So we're just playing around with how do you build portals where essentially this plus this plus this, and now you've got something that's worth something.
It's fascinating because I feel like we're at the beginning of that, and obviously you're an experienced entrepreneur, so you would have seen AI like I did and think I have to just be involved in it. I have to force myself into it so that I understand it. But the impact that's going to have on companies is, I remember you saying this when we spoke ages ago, like we used to have few big companies and then hundreds of medium-sized companies, and presumably in the future we're going to have millions of small companies.
Well, it's certainly the case that we need that every organization can run with a lot less people. To achieve its outcomes that it has today, it can do that with a lot less people if those people are very smart and are powered by AI. We are going to have law firms that have a few senior partners, a few AI prompt engineers, some tools, proprietary tools that they've built. I can imagine that the law firm of the future will have AI eavesdropping in on conversations and essentially just like you'll just have, obviously computers listening, and it'll be summarizing the meeting, and then it will literally just start building out all the documents, and then the documents will come in for review. Probably have a multiple review process of its own where it reviews it 10, 15, 20 times, iterates, does research, iterates again, does more research, iterates again, then gets human feedback in the loop, and then comes back and like all the documents are built pretty much in real time. I used
my first legal AI piece of technology the other day. And obviously I've been messing around with like all the openly available public ones myself, writing contracts and all the rest of it. And I was thinking about that experience of putting together, I've had to create freelance contracts for people to join my company. Back in the day, I had to pay a lawyer to create that. Now I literally clicked a button when I'm on a free trial with an app.
Yeah.
And suddenly I have it.
I built an entire business based on my interests.
Yeah.
That is probably the biggest hack for any entrepreneur to do. And that's why entrepreneurs love what they're doing, because they're building businesses upon their interests. Like my first interest was marketing. I then built an agency, and then I shifted to personal branding and storytelling. We shifted the agency towards that. Then I understood how to growth hack, which you and I know it's like exhilarating. You just love hacking in the game. You understand how it works. You teach it to someone else. It works for them, and it's like consistently. So maybe I'm not able to switch off because I don't have to or want to or have any desire to. But I do find it really hard to be outside and not check in with like people on LinkedIn or my emails, because every single email I get, I'm happy to get. Whereas when I don't know, in the worst bits of the agency where I was working with my first nightmare clients, a Slack notification would be the death of me.
Yeah.
Like the sound would annoy me.
Yeah.
Now I'm excited. I'm like, what are the team saying? What are we doing? So I struggle to switch off because switching off is probably the worst thing I could do, because I'm living the dream
Yeah.
that I so much wanted to build.
Yeah.
And I am so very much aware that there is only so much time that I have with the momentum that we have built, especially as I've been banned from LinkedIn like 5 times at this point. So I know that I would regret so hard not pushing so hard
Yeah.
because I wanted to take a break at 26. Like, that's a bit ridiculous. I have so much energy. Like, why would I not?
Yeah.
I think I have my 30s and 40s to really chill out. Every single entrepreneur that's like 30, 40, they're like, you are at your peak right now. Like, use that energy.
A lot of people who watch this show or other shows are thinking, I would love to be an entrepreneur. I would love to, I'd love to do my own thing. But how do you make that transition?
It's going to sound really cliche, but I had a really good time in Asia and I was spending about £15 a day. That was the average amount I spent. And I think that knocked me down a few pegs, where before I went away, I had like a bit of a sports car that I had on finance.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then when I got back, I went and bought an old VW Polo that had been written off. So I went from having a sports car to having a former written off Cat C Polo, where I had to put the key in the door to manually lock it and unlock it. And I moved back in with my parents.
Yeah.
And I was just happy. And going to work and building my own thing, it was strange. I had pride in my work for the first time in my life. And then it's strange you say that, because I turn up to the gym, I say, how many PTs are there? I said, there's only 2. Oh, doesn't sound like a great place to work. But I was like, oh, I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
And when I get there, first day, I go, can I email the members? And this is before GDPR. The manager goes, yeah, sure. And so I said to the guy behind the desk, I go, can you extract all the email addresses from the gym that have opted in for marketing? And he gave me a file with everyone's email address. So out of 2,000, I think maybe 600-700 emails. So I blind carbon copied all of them and just wrote an email saying, my name's James, I'm a new personal trainer. If there's anything I can help you with, email me back. And here's my phone number. And I think I was at about 7 or 8 clients in my first week. So then it meant I had more time on the floor, which meant more people would be like, oh, who's that new coach? So I got to 30 hours within maybe 2-3 months. And it was because of the time in recruitment. I wouldn't even know what a BCC on an email is. When I help personal trainers now, I'm like, oh, just BCC someone. They're like, what's that? Or they'll show me their email that they've planned out. I'm like, mate, that's from ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Just be chill. Just write something relaxed.
Yeah. Be honest. Yeah.
Yeah. Just so there's those kind of things that I definitely learned. So I'm very grateful for the sales and the inside marketing departments, because they curated what type of personal trainer I was going to be. And yeah, even just that first marketing email meant that by not trying too hard to earn loads of money, I actually ended up in a net better position. And I was getting all the money. Yeah. Which, I didn't actually account for tax at that point as well. So then I had to work extra hard in the second part of the year. And then I couldn't believe it the first time that I was told I could expense stuff. I didn't understand that. Some of my friends still don't get it. Like, I'll pay for their travel to Australia. And he's like, oh, it's business expense. I go, I've still got to pay for it. It's not free. It's not free money, mate.
Yeah, it's not write-off.
Yeah. So my tax accountant going, oh yeah, we can do a bit of the car. We can put your rent. We can do this. And I'm just watching my tax bill shrink. I say, I've never had this in recruitment.
Yeah.
It feels like free money. That was very appealing to me as well. It was kind of like an unfair advantage running your own business. And in the onset, the freedom that gave me as well, just to be whoever I wanted. And I tried being professional on social media. And then I remember one day I was a bit too caffeinated up and I went on a rant and it outperformed all the other videos. So again, it was course correction from seeing what had worked.
You see a lot of people being like, I want to start a massive company, but I don't have the idea yet. And I always think to myself, like, the best thing that you could do is start doing something. Because if you do that thing, like, come back to me in 100 days, and I reckon you probably will found the answer. Like, you'll know what you want to do next by just simply creating, writing, like posting online. Even small things will start revealing. And so you've said before that what you love about, having an audience and writing is, especially online, is the immediate feedback loop that you get. And so, like, how was that experience of, putting content out into the world, and then I suppose this incredible growth that you've had?
Yeah.
And I suppose that must have been very helpful when putting the book together.
The single most powerful framework I can share is that money and success is just a byproduct of value that you create for others. Every single person who has made a lot of money, it is because they have created an enormous amount of value for other people. So if you're sitting where you are and you're trying to figure out your business idea, the real question you just need to ask yourself is, look around you in your immediate vicinity or people globally. What problems do people have? Devise a solution and then scale that solution. That's how you make money. At the end of the day, it's to figure out a problem, solve the problem, and then scale the solution. If you can do that, whatever way you're going to do that, whether it's with content, whether it's with a business, a service, whatever the thing is, that is how you make money. That is how you find your big idea. But you have to go solve someone's problem. And so as I have thought always about content, it is the most valuable content solves someone's problem. And for me, most of that has been around things related to your life journey, questions that we're all wrestling with. And the thing that I have learned is that while the lens through which we view these questions is very unique, the questions themselves are universal. The things that we are all wrestling with, how to find meaning, our time and its impermanence, our relationships and how important certain things are, and yet our chase for these definitions of success that society hands us are getting in the way of those things that are more powerful. Those questions are universal. And so me wrestling with those, sharing ways that I am thinking about them, is creating value for people because they are learning a little bit more about how to wrestle with them, how to sit with those questions, how to answer them themselves. And what they give me in return is their attention. And that is value that I am receiving in return. I can build businesses around that. I can sell books, hopefully, to that. And so I think that that is where people need to ground themselves, is how can I create value for other people? You can create value from a content perspective through entertainment, through education, through idea sharing. There's plenty of ways to do it. But you need to think about the problem you're actually solving for people if you want to build a real durable business. To the latter part of your question on how it was helpful in the book and the feedback loops, understanding the types of topics that create the most value for people, the types of topics that really resonate, the types of questions and topics that people want to share with others is super important for thinking about putting together a book. Because while the launch is the initial goal, I would love to sell a lot of books and I would love to have it be a bestseller and be able to say these things and keep a promise I made to my grandmother about, like, all of these things matter. What really matters to me is that 10 years from now, people are still talking about this and something they learned. And the only way that you achieve that goal is if there are things in it that so resonate and sit with you that you just want to share them with other people. And that doesn't necessarily mean it's an enormous, global financial success, but it means that it has to be impactful to people that read it. And the types of topics that are impactful if you've been able to test them in real time. So I think it's very useful.